This episode of the SwitchCast is produced by Andrew Campbell, our honored Patreon member and Switch Knight.
Hi everyone, I'm KC.
And I'm JV.
And this is the SwitchCast, the podcast for the Nintendo Switch forecaster. Yes, it is the week of E3, and we are somehow 2 days already through, full of tree houses, new reveals, trailers, and so much more. It has been overwhelming, actually, just literally overwhelming, as I have... Stupid work was getting in the way of my watching E3 all this.
Oh yeah, I was in a very similar boat. I have to work, as we both do, and it's hard keeping up with the daily routine of life and all the E3 reveals as well. But there is just so much to talk about, Casey. And I'm, for one, very excited.
I'm pretty hyped about a few things in particular. I was really surprised by how many trailers I saw that I was not even familiar with, things I didn't even, I've never heard of before, so that's always nice to get a few surprises. Of course, we got a few things that we expected were kind of staples, and we were just glad to see them confirmed coming to the Switch here and there. But no, honestly, I usually spend almost all of E3 trying to tweet and post on Facebook and just get kind of the community all hyped up and join the Discord chat. But I just had a real slammed week. I have a lot of stuff going on. I will just tell everybody, I mentioned this in the Discord chat. I'm having it's a difficult week. My mom is in the hospital and she's undergoing some surgery, and it's fairly safe stuff, but it's the kind of thing that there's
you worry about anyway. It's understandable.
It's not 0% risk, so it's been taking up a lot of my time with that. So I'm gonna see if I'm gonna try to find the time still to get this podcast up and going as soon as possible. But of course, there's still the fact that there's another day of the E3 tomorrow that we don't know. I mean, I'm assuming all the bombshells have been dropped already, but there's all the big main stuff, but there's always a chance that there's going to be something that I really want to talk about that's going to come out tomorrow, and we don't know. I'll have to just hold it till next week, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky covering all of this at once, and we will definitely try our best, but yeah, there's just a lot to cover, and honestly, I feel like this podcast is actually pretty good timing.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's right after we're halfway. Well, we're mostly through all the big stuff, like I said, and so we're gonna try to get into all of that. This is gonna be our E3 Extravaganza. We're gonna talk all about that today. But before we really dig into that, I just have one piece of meta I'd like to take care of, and that is the Bloodstained Curse of the Moon giveaway. Our good friend Darkus has offered up 2 copies of Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. I asked our Patreon members to comment on the post for the contest for the giveaway, and I'm actually going to select our random 2 winners right now. I have in my hand a 12-sided die, and 11 people left comments on the Patreon post regarding the contest, saying that they'd like a copy. Because honestly, I found out in the last giveaway I did with the Rocket League codes, it's harder to give away games than you'd expect to just random people.
It is pretty tricky, but I'm glad that we have a set number of people who are interested, and this is going to be essentially like the Powerball. We'll see who the contest winners are right now, almost live. And roll the dice.
Okay, the number is 8, and I'm now going to go through our comments and pick the 8th commenter, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is Federico de Obeso. And
nice.
Yes. Oh, right. And there's 2 codes. So one more roll. Okay. And the second roll is number 3. And number 3 is Laura Beam. So Laura Beam and Federico de Obeso, you guys have won the codes. I will be messaging you on Patreon shortly in order to share those codes with you. Congratulations, folks.
Yes, congratulations. Bloodstained looks really cool, and I definitely recommend checking that out and letting us know what you think.
And if you guys ever want to, remember, anybody who wants to take part in these contests, all our Patreon members are automatically included in any of these contests. So if you'd like to take part in this or any of the other things that we do in the community there, definitely just, go over to patreon.com/theswitchcast and you can pledge $1, $5, $10, whatever you feel is right to help us make this show cooler, awesomer, faster, stronger, better. Okay. Moving on. All right, let's just get into this E3 rundown because we have not a moment to spare in this episode with how much stuff we have to talk about.
Absolutely. Let's get to E3.
All right, everybody, E3 rundown, and here we go. The headlines of them. I guess we'll start off with the Tuesday. Everything got kicked off with the Nintendo Direct, and that's where they kind of set the tone, got the ball rolling with all the announcements and the stuff that we're going to see played throughout the week. So
yeah, and I think it would be better to actually go through each reveal one at a time in order.
Yeah, and then maybe we'll talk about some of them a little more in depth as we hit them up. But yeah, this will be a good order, or at least some structure for this here.
Yes. So it's really funny because I actually missed the very first part of this E3. Just like the very first 1 or 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And as soon as this first game came up, I got so many notifications on Discord. And I was wondering why. And then I went back to watch it and I knew very well this is my game.
This seems like a very JV type game.
All right, so if you guys don't know, we're starting off with Daemon Ex Machina coming out in 2019.
It's a good subversion of the...
Yeah, I like it so much. As you all know, I am a huge mech fan, and this is completely up my alley. We didn't see that much gameplay in the trailer for the Nintendo Direct. It looked like it was a lot of it was just, action scenes. We didn't see any of the gameplay hub or anything like that. But from what we did see in the trailer, we saw some really cool looking robots. What I liked about the aesthetic of this situation is that you can tell it was designed by the Armored Core team.
Yeah, I was going to say, so that is something that was actually, because when I looked at it, that was the first thing I thought. I was like, is this an Armored Core game coming to Switch?
Yeah, that's what I thought too, but then once the title was revealed, then of course it's not. But looking into it, the Daemon Ex Machina team is comprised of ex-Armored Core developers. So
okay.
They're really bringing their talents into this game, it seems, and I am salivating for more.
All right, so if that's something to use as a basis to maybe how this game will work, because Armored Core 3 was actually the first game I bought with my PlayStation 2, actually.
Really?
And actually, when PlayStation 2 first came out, I felt like there was a really big drought of games I wanted on launch, but it was just such a big release that I had to get it. So Armored Core 3 was the only game I played for several months. And I'm
so proud of you, Casey. I'm so proud of you.
I loved Armored Core because it was so customizable with the mechs. I loved the limitations they had with the, you could pick different legs that had different hold, how much you can load up on top of them.
It has different weight values, different energy requirements, different heat values. That so crunchiness of customization.
Tweak. We wanted to have a melee-based one, right? So if any of this is kind of carrying over to that, I would love to see that kind of customization, parts mixing and matching and really making your own mecha.
Luckily, they actually did show a bit of gameplay for this at the Treehouse live stream.
Okay.
And so what they showed was kind of a character customization mode where you are your you're a pilot and you walk around a hangar, and you can actually customize your character
cool.
to be either a male or female, and then you hop into your customized robot and go out on missions. So it is a pretty similar structure to Armored Core, and I'm hoping this is essentially just an Armored Core game with a bit more cell shading.
Now, the thing is, Armored Core usually had you going against similar sized machines. You didn't really fight giant, like 10-story large robots like the ones you see in the trailer. So this looks like it might be going up a notch. In fact, I got also a little bit of a Zone of the Enders vibe from it.
I feel like there is a really nice mix of Armored Core customizability and aesthetics, with cell shading, art styles, and that Zone of the Enders aerial mobility. So I can nerd out about this for so long, and it hasn't even out yet. I even want to make note of the fact that the mecha designs are from the Armored Core team. The director is the director of Armored Core, and the character designer is actually the person who designed Fire Emblem Awakening.
Interesting mix.
Yeah, so the pilots themselves are anime character style, and this is definitely a lot more anime than Armored Core was. So it's a really interesting twist. I want to see how this progresses.
That's interesting how the Fire Emblem cross-pollination's been going on, because when we talk later about the actual Fire Emblem game, I definitely see some similar ideas going on in these titles.
Yeah, it's definitely good for all of these franchises to learn from each other. And I am actually really curious whether Daemon Ex Machina is a Switch exclusive or not. I haven't seen it announced or linked to any other console.
Ooh, yeah.
So here's hoping that the Switch gets an exclusive mecha game. You have no idea how amazing that would be for me.
And that was announced to be coming in 2019, so we still have some time. But to see more of it. But yeah, a good little teaser for the future.
Yeah, we have lots of time. It's coming out 2019. I can almost guarantee you it's going to be Game of the Year. I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Okay. Right after that, also kind of in the, I guess kind of bringing things halfway back from the mecha world to a fantasy world, bridging the gap. Yeah. We saw something that when I saw the beginning of this trailer, I was like, ooh, is this like right away, you knew it was Xenoblade something, right? Because they show you the Xenoblade characters. But what people might not realize, unless they've been playing the games themselves already, is that it very soon became clear that this was a prequel story. That these are all the characters that in the game, in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, that people flash back to, it looked like. I mean, correct me if I'm missing something that I didn't see in the ending yet, but this all looked like the story that sets up Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I love this, actually. I really enjoyed that they are going to explore all of the events that were only referenced in flashbacks. Because some of the story elements that were only referenced in flashbacks were some of the more interesting story elements in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So that is a great opportunity for actual gameplay.
And I will say this. Now, do you remember what one of my biggest caveats to liking Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was? One of the things I said I was looking for the game to introduce before I could really say I like this as an RPG?
I don't quite remember.
I was waiting for a villain, a worthy villain. And you know what? Playing through the game, Malos really did start to grow on me as a villain. He's different than a lot of them. He kind of has I don't usually like villains whose goal is destroy the universe kind of thing. I think that's kind of a,
cliche.
Yeah, it's a little cliche, a little meaningless, but they kind of, he gets away with it for a few reasons. I feel like, okay, kind of, it almost fits his character. But now that we're going back and they're really centering the story around him and building him up and going into his origins and putting him back in time like this and establishing who he was so much as a character, I'm appreciating him more as a villain. And he's he's allowed me to appreciate the games a lot better. And in addition to that, seeing characters in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 who were antagonists and going back to this prequel and seeing them as protagonists is really it's nice to see that, like, how they make that flip, and it's like, now that they are going to do that flip. It's such a big plot point of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, why some of these characters are bad, but going back and kind of getting the full story of why they did that, I appreciate that. I think that's something that really drives the plot and makes these characters more worth, because I've always said, I'm not like, I don't give the story to Xenoblade Chronicles 2 an A+, but I do give the characters and their development A++, right?
Right. I completely agree. The characters as individuals are a lot more interesting than the overarching story that they go through.
Like, it's a B+ story. I'm not saying it's a bad story, it's a B+ story, but the characters are where it's at.
Yes, and the fact that we can explore the history of these characters is really, really exciting to me, especially that one character that, that we know is actually bad. I don't want to spoil it, but I like that in the trailer there is just a hint of that foreshadowing but it's not going to be, it's something that happens during the present time, not in the past. So it's, I want to see how that is set up in the past to justify his actions in the future.
Yeah, it's really cool, and not a lot of the other Xenoblade games jumped around this much in a single
timeline.
Timeline like this. I mean, like, there has been like large gaps, I think, between some of the games. I don't know. I never played the other ones, but and I like that it takes advantage of the fact that these Blade characters, they're effectively immortal, except for the fact that they can get their memories reset every so often.
Right, and I was going to say, I really, really want to see the older iterations of the characters that we know now.
Yes.
Because they're going to have the same personality, but their memories might be different, so...
Right. It could be like like one of the main ones. What's the one?
Bridget.
Bridget. Bridget is one I love her, and she has a whole, it's a lot of her story is the fact that she has gone through one of those memory resets since the time of this prequel game, and is she the same person as she was then, or has the experiences she's gone through in this quote-unquote lifetime made her a different person? So that's something I don't think a lot of stories can ever do, like saying the same exact person just living
in a different era.
Yeah, in a different era. How do they change? Like, does that affect their personality, or are they basically the same person? I'm very interested to see, how Bridget in particular is going to be in this game.
Oh, geez. This is so exciting. And honestly, talking with you through this reveal has got me more excited than during the initial reveal. I'm hoping that I believe this is going to be part of the expansion pass that we purchased. So the fact that this big content comes with the expansion pass is so exciting to me.
Awesome. Oh, I didn't know it was going to come with the expansion pack.
I believe it will be, because they did announce when Xenoblade launched that there's going to be a big story chunk of content later in 2018, and I believe this is it. So
very cool, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So that was just the first two trailers they threw in our face before they even got to the intro proper for the Nintendo Direct. And Reggie came on, and I loved his use of switching around pics, as I call them, hashtag switching around, showing people with their Switch on top of like mountains or on the beaches and stuff like that. Yeah, because
that's what we've been doing since the Switch released. So
yeah, I'm still hoping like Nintendo one day will officially recognize switching around as the hashtag for those kind of pics.
Hopefully, we'll see.
They won't, but I'm still hoping.
Pipe dreams.
But he used some very good wording here, where he started talking about the different games that they're going to, hinting at the different games he's going to talk about, and then he led in with A Journey to Verdant Fields and Viridian Cities, like already right there. Such a clever way to work in the Pokemon hint for anyone who remembers the original games. and
Yeah.
in a timeless quest to catch them all, and that is how he transitioned into Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee.
Oh, I thought that was pretty brilliant too. I was like, yeah, I see you. I see you, Reggie. I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
That was pretty well done. But then, yes, you're right. They did transition into Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. And I believe they didn't really reveal that many new details from what was previously announced on the Nintendo Direct itself.
Correct. All we really got in the Nintendo Direct was that Mew is going to come packaged in the Pokeball Plus if you buy it. And I think they just reconfirmed the November 16th release date that we already knew. But I will use this, I think it's a good time to kind of just segue into the talk about what we got to see of the game. Because I did watch the Treehouse gameplay today. So let me put it this way. There's been some people that I know, like my colleagues, who have been asking me if Nintendo plans on remaking Pokemon Red, because if they ever make, or Red and Blue, Gen 1, and if they remake that and updated it, he'd be like, I'm buying a Nintendo Switch because I just want to play that. And I wasn't sure what this Eevee Pikachu game was really, but it seems more and more as I watch this, it is pretty much a modern remake of Pokemon Yellow.
Right. I'm not entirely sure if the story is going to be a one-to-one transfer.
Right.
But it does look like it is essentially the Pokemon Yellow experience, but with modern assets.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it's not going to be the story. I guess he did say the one thing would make or break his decision to buy this was if Team Rocket is still the villain of this game, and if they're not, I don't think he's going to be as interested.
Oh no, it's confirmed that it was Team Rocket's in it. It was in the original trailer.
Okay, great, because then he'll buy it. But I watched the gameplay today, and they got all the way up to the Pewter City gym, and there was Brock, and the gym was laid out the same way, but in 3D. The characters have, if they don't say their exact original lines, they had like allusions to the right. And and there was Brock. I mean, Brock as the first gym leader, that pretty much sealed it for me. That yes, this is I guess you could say like the fire red leaf green kind of equivalent of a mod, the Switch remake level of these games.
Yeah. Now I can definitely understand some people having Gen 1 fatigue, but it's definitely good to keep in mind that these are primarily intended for people who got into Pokemon Go, just because of maybe Pokemon nostalgia and haven't really picked up a Pokemon game in a while.
Yeah, honestly, if you asked me if I wanted a remake of a Gen 1 game, I probably would say no, it's not something that interests me. But yeah, you're right. I do think it's something that a lot of people who played, Pokemon Go, and there's still a lot. I mean, it's not the 10 billion people as there was the first week it came out, but there's still millions and millions of people playing Pokemon Go. And this is going to be the perfect step to get them into the full games again.
Yeah, and I even saw a lot of people re-downloading Pokemon Go because of these announcements. Mm-hmm. People who just got in during the first few weeks of Pokemon Go when that craze was booming, but stopped because of lack of interest or lack of different experiences. And this is a reason for them to come back.
So what they did a few things that change it from the original formula. So it is confirmed, it looks like, that the battle system, when you actually battle trainers and gym leaders, is classic Pokemon battle style. 4 moves, same type attack bonuses, effects, all that depth that we want, that I feel that the Pokemon Go player might only be familiar with the elemental differences, and that's it. And a lot of them are hungry for that step up in complexity. A lot of them are missing anything more than tap, tap, dodge,
Yeah.
But to make things a little more similar to Pokemon Go, all the catching is done. It's just any wild encounter is no fighting. It's just purely that catching minigame that you're familiar with from Pokemon Go, but that does XP up all the Pokemon in your party. So That's how you grind. You can just grind by catching Pokemon like that.
Yeah, I believe during the Treehouse they even showed that it was an experience share that was enabled. So
yes,
I wonder if that's something you can toggle on and off.
Oh, or just focus it on. Well, see, here's the thing. I think it's going to be always just XP share, because since there is no Pokemon who participates in the battle, I think it's just like, well, it's, I guess it just makes more sense just to give XP to everybody.
Everybody.
Since, it's not like, who knocked that Pokemon out? No, nobody did. It's just everybody was just sitting and watching you throw Pokeballs. I
mean, theoretically, they could, if you have experience share off, maybe it only goes to the first Pokemon in your party.
Maybe.
But I agree. I think in the practical sense, it should just be the whole team, just fixed. But so there was definitely a bit of controversy with this specific feature. Mm-hmm. I know people were kind of scared that the game would be a fully dumbed down version of a standard Pokemon game, and that it would adopt the Pokemon Go system for everything. But honestly, I think the fact that they adopted catching into Let's Go is pretty brilliant. The most tedious aspect of the standard Pokemon games is the catching. What's exciting is finding the Pokemon themselves and seeing what you're gonna get, and then going through the actual battle is a little bit more tedious than normal.
Now, it is interesting now that you can actually see all the Pokemon on the map as you're walking around, so you don't have to just be like, walk around, wait for a random encounter, hope you find the one you want. You can walk around and dodge ones you don't want to catch. Like, I've been looking for that, I've been looking for a Butterfree. You can just go and get into the encounter with the Butterfree rather than have to get into random fights with all the Weedle in the world, or all the Zubats you can dodge.
Yeah, and I think that's also another aspect of Pokemon Go that they've transferred over to this game. Because in Pokemon Go, you can essentially see the Pokemon around you, and you can target which ones you want.
That's true.
And this is something that maybe they just adopted. And honestly, now that the hardware can handle rendering all the Pokemon in the tall grass itself, it just makes sense to have the Pokemon be visible already.
Yeah, okay, that's true. I did love how the Pokemon are all to scale on the screen as well. Like, when you see, let's say we got a Caterpie over here, and then there's an Onix over there. The Onix is actually he is like 20 times taller than a Caterpie, and he takes up a huge screen space. And when you have him as your buddy Pokemon, you ride on the head of an Onix, and it's just like this massive thing. And so they're all actually rendered to scale, which is crazy different from anything before, where they were always just one sprite big, Or I guess in the 3DS games, they would show them bigger, but except for the ones that like you would ride in the in Sun and Moon, where you can ride a few of them.
Pokemon.
Yeah, those would be real size, but most of the other ones you would see, they would change their size so they could fit into like a normal sprite box. But these are just really crazy size differences.
Definitely, and they actually confirmed that every single Pokemon follows you around. So the smaller Pokemon follow you while you walk across, but the larger Pokemon you can actually ride. Like that Onix you mentioned, you can ride on that Onix, and every single large Pokemon is rideable.
Now, my one concern about the catching instead of battling gameplay mechanic is how dungeons are going to work. I'm concerned whether or not there's going to be any kind of, actual feel that I need to work my way through this dungeon. Because without fights, is there any threat, other than running out of Pokeballs? Or are they going to maybe throw in a lot more trainer battles, so there's actually something to work through to get through to the end of a dungeon and maybe to a boss encounter later on?
Honestly, I suspect, I didn't see this in Viridian Forest, but I suspect that in dungeons, maybe the roaming Pokemon in tall grass chase you. So,
okay, but what's the threat? If they chase me, are there going to be some actual fights? If they chase me and catch me, so what? Now I just throw a Pokeball at it. It's not like I have to worry about...
Oh, right. Okay, so you're talking about, like, your Pokemon losing.
Right, there's no tension to that. There's no threat of losing if there's no fight that I have to worry about. Like, do I have enough potions to get through this? Oh, I brought a bad type for these matchups. It's just they fight, I throw a Pokeball, or I run away. There's no losing condition unless they throw in a lot of these trainer battles, maybe.
Yeah, I suspect they might just throw in more trainer battles, or maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be trainer battles. Maybe there are specific situations where Pokemon will attack you and you have to ward it off with another Pokemon.
Maybe. I think, that seems also very viable. I think there'll probably be some scripted encounters that are actually battles in certain sections. That would make sense to me as well.
And looking at how the battles actually look, they seem really cool to me. The animations look good.
Yeah, especially like when you get into the battle and, the Pikachu jumps off of your shoulder and just animates like totally fluidly right into the battle scene. I think that looked cool. The combat looked like, I guess, updated Pokemon Stadium-ish still. Like they still do their attacks. Honestly, I think the animations in Sun and Moon were pretty good.
I think these animations are essentially the same. They're probably using the same assets, just rendered in higher quality with the Switch hardware. So
yeah, I definitely got the vibe of Sun and Moon. Like that was the best we've seen so far, where it actually looked pretty close. Like attacks were going to hit the other Pokemon, rather than just here's some animation roughly drawn on top of the enemy Pokemon and they do the same flinch. Like this looked like pretty interactive looking attacks.
Yeah, and honestly, I can't really complain about that since you can tell that the assets and engine was reused for this, but I suspect that next generation is going to have quite a bit of a larger twist. So this experience is might essentially be the last hurrah for this style of Pokemon game.
I know, that's actually the exact same conclusion I came to when I saw this, which is not being touted as a mainline game, but kind of feels like, for all intents and purposes, after I've seen this gameplay this week, it feels like a mainline game, except with the random encounters changed up. So, since they're changing this up so much, I feel like, the next mainline Pokemon generation has to do something very different, or they have to have something in mind that's very different. If this is already doing, so many of these little changes to the formula, I feel like they can't go backwards after they've already kind of modified the formula this much with a side game.
Yeah. Now, it's definitely worth noting all of the Pokemon Go integration features that they've revealed. So they did give us a few more details regarding Pokemon Go Park, right?
Yeah, so they showed off, you can bring your Pokemon Go Pokemon into the park, and there you can just either, say hello to them and, interact with them in just a weird way to look at them. But if you want, you can bring them into the game fully as a Pokemon that you battle with. If you choose to do so, though, it's a one-way deal. It's like, all right, if you want this Hitmonchan to come into your game, you can say, all right, I'm going to go and try to catch it. But once you catch it and it's in the game, that's it. It can't go back to Pokemon Go, which is fine because, you can get, there are a dime a dozen, most of the Pokemon in there. But it will get stats, and the higher its CP, which is the stat they use in Pokemon Go to, tell you its power, the higher its CP, the higher its level. Though they didn't say anything about IV, whether you can increase its IVs in any way based on what its stats were in Go Plus.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's going to be the case. Honestly, I kind of wish they would just get rid of IVs entirely. But considering they're even in Pokemon Go, it's likely to still be there.
Right, in some way. Oh, they also did say that you can do the similar transfer function with Pokemon in this game. You can basically, instead of just saving up all the ones that you've caught, you can transfer them to the professor, very similar as you do in Pokemon Go, and you'll get candies, but instead of the candies being like, here's Pidgey or, the Bulbasaur candy like you get in Go, you will get in Let's Go. Basically, they're kind of like the stat boosting vitamins from the previous games, they look like.
Right.
Yeah, so you can get stat boosters.
Yeah, which is a pretty neat way to upgrade the stats of your Pokemon.
I wonder if that's basically their way of letting you perfect IVs in this game.
I hope that's the case.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, just like to avoid all your IV concerns like from before. Unless it's Eevee boosters, which is then just a quick way. Maybe it might make more sense if it's Eevee boosters, because since you're not fighting Pokemon in the wild, you're not getting Eevees boosted up. So you might need the candies as a way to boost stats that otherwise you're not getting from fighting.
Yeah, we'll see. I do think that it could potentially be EVs. It could potentially be IVs. We can't say for sure, but I suspect it'll likely be IVs from my perspective.
So they were showing off how you're going to do the trading and battling with your friends. And the way it works is...
right, with the little Pokemon icons?
Right, you basically make a room and you set the icons. You could be like, all right, Pidgey, Bulbasaur, Pikachu, and you tell your friend that code, and then when he makes a room or picks that same code, you'll be in a room together to either trade or to battle. The fact that this doesn't communicate directly with people, that you can't like just send an invite, and that you have to find an external way to communicate with other players, feels like something's missing from this game, honestly.
Yeah, it reminds me of the old school friend codes, which nobody really liked.
Right.
So that's not really inviting in a way, but I want to see how this really is streamlined before I fully assess that situation.
Yeah, because right now it sounds like I'm going to have to text you, or I'm going to have to find you on Discord or something and tell you the room code. But when I feel like if this truly is going to be using the internet system and it relies on the paid online features, I feel like it should have some sort of quick register my friends on my friend list and just say, I want to invite JV to a trade, you know?
Now, they were, with this whole link code system, they were able to confirm that there are single battles, double battles, and link trades online.
Okay.
So that's a pretty cool confirmation. Though I'm really, really curious to see how the metagame for this is going to turn out, since it is likely to only be Gen 1 Pokemon.
It's only Gen 1 Pokemon and their Alola forms.
Oh, the Alolan forms have already been confirmed to be
They did say that the Alolan forms can be transferred from Pokemon Go. And I believe that implies that they're can be
Alolan
fully
forms
transferred.
come over too?
I believe so. I didn't see that exemplified, but they didn't specify that they can only go to the Pokemon Go park. So they did say that you can transfer the Alolan version. So I believe that's true, which would mix up the meta a little bit where, now we have more dragon types than just Dragonite. You can bring over Alolan Executor, and that's part dragon. And that's something that wasn't an option in original Gen 1 that was kind of a missing viable option,
Well, I hope that's the case, because I definitely want as much variety and a lot more options for a metagame like that.
Right. Though, granted, right now there's not a ton of Alolan Pokemon even available in Pokemon Go. So it's still, maybe by the time this comes out, there'll be more. But I think Alolan Executor is the only variant form that we've gotten so far in the game.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
The only other thing I want to point out is they mentioned the 2-player mode, and that's kind of a cool feature, except I just thought that when you're playing 2 players and you get into a battle, like an actual trainer battle, it's literally, you get 2 Pokemon still versus their 1, which feels like, I don't know, feels a little OP.
Unfair. Yeah, of course it would. Now, were we able to confirm if there's any sort of scaling involved in that?
Didn't look like it from there. They didn't mention anything about it. Maybe later on you'll get on, to double battles against other things. But, I mean, it might just be a thing they say. If you're playing 2 players, it's a way to make the game easier, a way to make the game more casual. And so maybe they don't care about balancing it. Or maybe there's an option. I don't know. But it seems like a thing that would make it less exciting, or even a way just if you're having a hard time with the game, maybe you just pick up a second controller and play 2-player by yourself to make the game easier.
Have 2 Pokeballs, one in each hand, and just move around together. Yeah, I'm playing by myself.
I could totally see that being a way people do this.
Yeah, well, I feel like it would benefit from scaling just to make it more interesting, but...
Me too. Okay, moving on. I think that's everything from there. So the next thing we got to see is Super Mario Party, confirmed to be coming out October 5th.
Yeah, this was really cool, actually. I think this was actually a pretty big surprise since there weren't any leaks to a Super Mario Party release on the Switch before the announcement.
Yeah, there was no hints about it. I mean, I just think that we knew... I felt this was one of those things that we could have expected coming out here, but I was very pleased to see the ways they've brought this game to the Switch. In particular, I mean, the one thing that caught my eye more than anything else was the mini game where you can literally rearrange a map of a stage based on how you align your two Switch tablets.
Yeah, that is really cool, and I think that was this type of functionality was referenced in Patent?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, we saw reports that they had patented something called multi-screen compatibility, and we weren't sure how they'd use that, but this is a way. So yeah, basically they showed them lining up the two switches, and they could, figure out which way they wanted to line them up and kind of make a map out of it. And then you just drag your finger from one switch to the other so the system knows where the switches are lined up. And that's it. And now they were driving tanks, and the tanks could move from one tablet to the other when it was, cross the border. And it's pretty cool. That's a pretty neat idea.
Yeah, it's a ton of really interesting implementations. But ultimately, I'm just glad that a legitimate Mario Party is out for the Switch.
Yeah,
the Switch is perfect for this. So I'm glad to see people are now or are soon going to be able to play all these minigame compilations on the go.
A lot of good motion control uses. I think that's something that we really haven't had I guess we had some waggle stuff.
Like 1-2 switch.
Yeah, or I'm thinking the Wii versions of Mario Party, but this looks like they're using it in some very specific ways, like that bike race, like the one where they rotate it. And I know they're going to use HD Rumble in this in some cool ways. There's going to be some sort of detecting. I could see a game where you're doing a metal detector and you have to feel where something is based totally on the rumbling. Heck, I can even picture a game where they tell you one player has to be blindfolded or close their eyes and they have to play only by touch.
Yeah, that would be a really cool system. And it's going to be a ton of fun seeing how the Mario Party game takes advantage of all of the weird and unique Joy-Con features.
Yeah, if any game's going to show a real plethora of uses for those controllers, it's going to be Mario Party, and they're just going to go crazy with the idea. So I want to say, yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to seeing most, is all the ways they're going to whip this out.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, after that, we got to see Fire Emblem Three Houses, which was announced for spring 2019. And I gotta say, the impression I got from this was a lot more serious sounding and a lot more Games of Thronesy vibe.
I thought that exact same thing. It really seemed like they ramped up the fantasy darkness of this game.
Yeah, it had a more low fantasy, like a Game of Thrones, not like a high fantasy with just dragons flying around everywhere. It just had a kind of a dramatic, somewhat fantasy, but more about these people in these struggling houses.
Yeah, and we did get some of that in the Fire Emblem Fates. We got two conflicting factions, but in this, it feels like the scale might be even grander.
Yeah.
And overall, the game looks super cool. What do you think, Casey?
I liked the details. This is what I was saying before about there's definitely some cross-pollination going on in that I got Fire Emblem Warriors was a game that was it was a Warriors game that took Fire Emblem strategy elements. This looks like a strategy game that's taking Warriors elements, because just a few of these small details where it's not just when you move a unit it's not just that one person. They all have an entourage of supporting soldiers with them. So when they clash with the enemy, you see all their like halberdiers clashing with the enemy at the same time as the leaders are like dueling off, and it makes more sense, and it adds so much more drama and weight to the battle, whereas before it just felt like, all right, it's my 12 heroes versus these 12 bad guys and monsters. Now it feels like there's an army, because each one of my heroes has 20 guys with him. So now it's a war, not just a party of heroes fighting.
Yeah, I thought this was such a brilliant change to the game, because ultimately the fundamental grid-based strategy gameplay is almost the same. But going into that transitioning, seeing the squads fight other squads, the whole battle feels like a grand scale fight. It seems like it's an actual war going on instead of just a tiny skirmish.
I'm glad you said that word, though, the grid-based battling. Now, just a small detail they added that I thought spoke volumes about the way they're treating this, though, is that when the character moved from, let's say, one space, and they moved them like 2 up and 1 to the right, the character didn't walk 2 up and 1 to the right. They walked in a straight line from their starting point to their end point. They walked like they naturally would, not like a character on a grid has to walk. And it's just a small touch, but it makes me feel like, they're really trying to add more realism and not gaminess. They're trying to push away the gaminess of it.
Yeah, it's just so brilliant how they're able to retain that fundamental gameplay while upping the scale of the presentation overall.
And then they also showed us, speaking of the scale, the 3D world. There actually was more than just the battle scenes. There was the character walking around in a castle, very RPG exploration-y, and he was talking to characters in a not just purely here's a cutscene kind of thing. It was like someone he went to a part of the castle, it looked like, and they asked him questions that I get the impression that his answer affected how the character progressed. And she asked him, should I practice with my axe or train with a sword or something like that? And it sounds pretty much like, oh, you're telling this character what skill to upgrade. So you kind of, affect them in plot decisions.
Yeah. Now, I am wondering if you only have that 3D exploration in your little hub area, or will it be something that you can do throughout the entire world of the Fire Emblem?
The fact that they only showed the castle does make me think you're right, that it might just be like a hub area, that it's where you talk to your soldiers, where you make some decisions. But I feel like if it was more of a RPG world, they would have shown transitions to like a field or other cities and stuff. But that could still be wrong about that. The formations also, it looked like there was something about the formations of the troops. Like you can pick different, like they showed them like aligning up in like a triangle and then charging the enemy, or taking up a defensive stature. So it looks like there might be some other options like that with how you utilize those support troops. They might be more than just for show. They might actually be a utilitarian part of the game there.
Yeah, I honestly would be fine either way. Just the presentation change is kind of mind-blowing to me. But if there is an additional strategic element that they add to these minion characters that follow each character around, that would be really interesting to see as well.
And I'm wondering now, with the name 3 Houses, is it possible this is going to be another game where there's multiple versions and each one plays the game from a different point of view? Is there actually going to be 3 houses? Is there going to be like Fates and Bloodlines, where you're basically taking on an entirely different protagonist point of view? I can only hope.
Yeah, I suspect they will. I bet Fire Emblem Fates sold a lot more because of the multiple versions. So why not do that in the Switch versions?
All right. I think this is a good place to take a break and save for a second. So why don't we catch our breath for just 1 minute? I'm going to refill my water, and we'll just Do a little interstitial, and we'll be right back with some more. Alright, I am back. I am thirstily quenched, and we are ready to move on into the next thing that they announced. And this was actually, so we had suspected, in fact, this was one of your system switch picks in the past.
Oh yeah, this is the first of my system switches that came true.
So dreams do come true, but what we did not expect was not only was it going to be announced, it was available to download last night, and that title was Fortnite.
Yeah, it wasn't entirely a surprise that it would come out on the Nintendo Switch, but it was a surprise that it would come out so soon.
Right, that it was just ready to go.
Yeah, and I am glad that a game like this that is just so prevalent in the current zeitgeist of the gaming world is out on the Switch. I like that the Switch is now part of that relevant conversation.
Yeah, honestly, in fact, so ready that already 2 million people downloaded it since it was released, and it's a free-to-play game. And again, just to remind anyone, this is the, survival arena game where there's just a big island and everyone parachutes onto it at different spots, and you have to get weapons and survive, be the last one standing as this ring of the storm or whatever closes in, and basically the area that you're allowed to be in slowly shrinks until you're all really condensed and only one person survives.
Yeah, this is what's called a battle royale game. It's become its own genre. If you've heard of stuff like PUBG or H1Z1 Survival, this is that type of game. And I'm excited that this is free to play on the Switch. Mm-hmm. There aren't that many free to play games on the Switch that are of this caliber. So
true.
Really, really great.
And that is one of the reasons why I was definitely down to download it, and actually got to start playing with some of the Switch cats from our Discord community even last night. Easily just jumped into a few games.
Really? So you actually got to try it. What are your initial impressions then, Casey? Because I've never really seen you play this type of game before.
I like the options of the ways to take on the game. I got a very strong feeling of Hunger Games when the first time I played it. I dropped down in this area that looked like it would be, it was some like facility that just looked like it would be full of guns. I was like, oh, that's a good place to start. But then I realized, everybody else went for the same cornucopia of like supplies and we got murdered in the first 10 seconds. And that's fine because you could just start a new game right away. And the second time I played it really low key. I just kind of ended up staying in the wilderness, found good little houses to hide inside and just kind of lay low. What I didn't realize, though, is how big the construction element is in this game.
Yeah, it is called Fortnite for a reason. And it's one of the differentiating factors that makes it unique from PUBG and stuff like that.
I did not realize that was a pun on Fortnite. I did not realize building forts and structures was such a big deal. In fact, when I started watching, because when you die, you can watch the person, your camera can lock on and watch the person who killed you and see how they play. And I watched some high-level players. And I actually didn't like this too much, is the fact that when people get into any kind of combat, what a lot of these high-level players do is they just build a box around themselves really quick. You just throw up buildings very fast in this game. And you could just be like an earthbender in Avatar and just be like, I want a wall around me of bricks. And you'll just put a pile of bricks around you and then catch your breath and figure out where you want to go. And you can even poke a door in it and, run out when you're ready to run out. And so that's a big part of it. And making stairs, because you could just run and build stairs as you run and just go as high as you want to climb a mountain or jump in on top of somebody else's fortress. It's a really cool power. And I did spend a lot of time trying to get used to the building and using it fast. I honestly, it's the one feature I'm not crazy about, but
Yeah, that's generally my criticism for Fortnite. Some people like that, some people don't. And some people prefer PUBG because that's not really in that Battle Royale game. But it's part of Fortnite, and I want to see how the game progresses on the Switch. I want to see if people actually enjoy or even prefer playing Fortnite on the Nintendo Switch.
I think it's really fun, though. I mean, like I said, I had a couple games. There's a squad mode, right? So you could play where there's, it's not every man for themselves. You can have teams of 4 or duos. And, but we did have 4 SwitchCats all together with me on a team. And you'd meet up and you try to get each other's back, and that's pretty fun. And you can, and it was really funny because there was one part we were playing where the ring of death had closed in around us, and was it Chai Tea Lady? I think it was Chai Tea Lady.
I think so.
Yeah, who was constantly like reviving me, and we're running desperately trying to make it into the safe zone, and I just kept dying as we're going. She would revive me again, and we finally got to the safe zone, and I was like, whew, we made it. And another team murdered us, and I was like, oh, they were just waiting for us to come in from the storm before they gunned us down.
And did you find that experience satisfying or frustrating?
No, it was fun because it was a team that we actually had gotten to a skirmish before. And
so it was their vengeance.
It was like, yeah, we chased them off, but we chased them off in the wrong direction. We chased them to safety, and we were caught by the storm. So no, it made sense, and the better player won the engagement. But it was fun, and none of that fort building came into play there. So actually, I did enjoy that. I like using the terrain because we got into a fight in a farm. I liked using the farm's already terrain and pre-existing kind of like, features to our advantage. And, yes, all that was pretty cool and fun. And, I think the game has a lot of potential. I'd like to see more progress over time as to what you can unlock, because it looks like there's a lot of crazy characters to unlock and just cosmetic stuff instead of the pickaxe.
Yeah, which is fine. Which is nice.
I'd like to see how that unlocks over time, or if it's like really hard to do without paying.
I think it's currency based, and it might be a little bit more difficult, but still, it's the base gameplay is blank and similar for everyone involved. So
yeah,
you won't get any sort of statistic advantage if you play more.
Yeah. That's always a good plus, and something that'll probably keep me interested in it.
It was a little bit not great from the Sony side of things. Apparently, this does support crossplay, except for people who are on the PS4.
Yeah, and that is something that has been imposed by Sony, and they don't seem to want to let their games play nice with the other systems.
Well, I believe I was able to play with people on the PC and the PS4, but I think they just don't like crossplay between consoles. Now, I did love that Reggie threw a bit of shade in Sony's direction with his comments. Mm-hmm. He actually had a response, and I will quote Reggie. He said, "We embrace working with a developer and enabling them to bring their vision to life, and whether that's Fortnite, whether that's a number of other games that have cross-platform play on our console. From a developer standpoint, that's what we want. We work hard with them to bring that to life. What competitors do is their decision to make. We believe being both developer forward and fan forward is in the best interest of the game."
That's probably the most politically safe way to
call out another company.
Really is. I mean, like, that's the most tactful way to say where we want to just do what makes the players have the most fun and realizes what the developers had in mind for a game. And that Sony is doing the opposite of both those things. The Sony is shutting down the vision the developers have for this game by making it cross-platform, like everyone just play with as many people. I mean, it's 100 players per map per time you play it. So cross-platform, just having a whole host of people always playing it is integral. And, and limiting the number of people who can, play against each other is, just kind of breaks the community in fragments.
Yeah. Now, it is really reassuring to see that the Switch version has 2 million and up downloads now. Mm-hmm. So that is a good player base to start with. But yeah, I agree. Having as open of cross-platform as possible is ideal.
All right, so moving on, Overcooked 2 coming August 7th. This looked like now compared to the Overcooked that you played and reviewed, how different did this look to you?
So this doesn't actually look that much different, but I did like that they were able to confirm a few additional features. So in Overcooked 2, they have a bunch of, similar modes to the previous one, but they confirmed online multiplayer, which was not present in the previous Overcooked 1.
That's a big difference. Okay, being able to, like local play was fun, but that's really pretty hard to get for some people. And so being able to play online definitely will open up the audience for this game.
Absolutely. This is definitely something that I would encourage our Discord community to hop on voice chat and just have fun with it. This is a game that requires communication, so maybe they're releasing this game allowing for online multiplayer and working on voice chat capabilities for the Nintendo online system.
It looked to me like this had a much more fantasy theme than the other one. Like there were crazy, walking vegetables, and had a kitchen on a balloon as it floated through the air.
The Overcooked 1 had pretty similar elements.
Okay.
They're in an early stage of Overcooked 1, you were actually cooking in a kitchen that's on a pirate ship, and the pirate ship is breaking constantly and rocking back and forth, shifting the areas of the kitchen itself.
Okay.
So yeah, it is definitely crazy, and it looks like they're upping the ante even further, but this is definitely par for the Overcooked course.
All right. Very cool. Very cool.
Now, there are a couple additional new features that were included in Overcooked 2 other than the online mode. It looks like you're now able to throw the ingredients you pick up, which is super huge.
I guess the other person has to be there to catch it, though. Otherwise, it might go splat or something.
Well, that makes sense. But in Overcooked 1, if you had, let's say, a bunch of chopped tomatoes that you wanted to get across a chasm, you can't throw it. You're just stuck holding it until the chasm fixes itself and you can cross again. But in this case, now if you coordinate well enough, you can throw ingredients at each other, which is cool.
That's pretty cool. All right, sounds good. Moving on, they showed off Killer Queen Black, which is coming out in 2018. This is a game I didn't get a lot of details from, but it looks like a pretty cool, kind of a complex 4v4 battle game about two rival hives, and it looks like there's a lot of slashing and deploying units, and I don't know, one side's one queen, one side's the other queen, and their minions are fighting, and you're trying to, I don't know.
It's kind of like a team-based joust game.
Okay.
Like the very classic joust game, maybe even a bit of balloon fight. So essentially you have a killer queen on the orange team and a killer queen on the blue team. The object of the game is to essentially kill the opposing queen, or there's an objective in the very bottom where you have to get a certain snail to the opponent's side or to your side.
Okay.
This is a multiplayer game, and it supports a large number of players on each side, but they play as just little minion insect characters that can't really do anything unless the killer queen activates various power-up nodes throughout the map that lets your team get more power-ups and bonus to complete the objective.
Okay.
So ultimately, that's the gameplay of Killer Queen. You have the queen granting power-ups to their team, and the teammates helping their queen defeat the other.
All right, very cool. That sounds like something I'll have a lot of fun with when it comes out.
It's pretty neat. The movement is a bit floaty. I actually played an arcade version in DreamHack. They had a physical arcade multiplayer version of this, and they had a full 10 players playing at once, which is pretty cool. But it can get pretty chaotic, and sometimes if you don't know what you're doing, it's hard to kind of understand what's going on just by looking at it.
Okay. All right, Hollow Knight, which is also available now.
Oh yeah, so this one is a platforming game that apparently people really like. Do you know anything about this?
I've only seen it. I've never actually played it. I don't really know much about Hollow Knight or what makes it particularly unique. It has a cool art style. It looks very dark and creepy, but, pretty, nicely done.
I really like the aesthetic, and that's really all I could really speak to about it. This might be something that we can pick up and review in the future, though.
All right, then the next big title they kind of touched upon, we got some more details on Octopath Traveler. They've stopped calling it Project Octopath Travelers. It is
just Octopath Traveler. It's not a project anymore. It's coming out for reals.
Yeah.
For realsies.
So it seems like we got a new demo for it coming out June 14th, which is the day this will be posting. But the big deal about this demo is it can carry over save data to the full game, it noted. So they're using the method I loved so much that I first saw in the Bravely Default series. You can enjoy this demo. You can actually put in time and feel like it's worth it because progress will carry over to the full game in whatever way. I don't know if it's just going to be the intro or if it's going to be like a prequel or like a prologue kind of chapter. We'll see how it goes, but I like that, and I'm definitely going to download that as soon as I can this morning and try it out.
I know some people were kind of not that excited about a demo announcement, but since the game is coming out so soon, I think there isn't as much to really reveal anymore.
Yeah, it's less than a month away. It's July 13th it comes out, so yeah. So not much to reveal. They had a lot of Treehouse gameplay, but at this point, yeah, it's nothing too new. They just kind of rehashed a lot of the stuff we knew, got to see some more characters in action, and yeah, so that's that. But then, okay, the big meat and potatoes of the day, which was probably, I'd say, about half the weight of the entire thing, was the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate segment. This is so much stuff here. I think what we're going to have to do is, we're just going to briefly just kind of like mention a few of the big hits of this part of it. This will take up a whole segment of another talk we have. So we're going to save this for maybe next week, but let's just run down the most important stuff that they mentioned from this direct today.
Yes, so just a quick rundown. This is now called Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which seems like such an appropriate name considering the roster has everyone from Smash Bros. History included.
Yeah. Everybody, characters that even showed up in one game but didn't show up in others, like Ice Climbers, are back. Every single character that's ever been in a previous one. And of course, there's some new characters. Namely, they revealed Ridley from the Metroid series, the villain, and we were talking about that rumor a while back, and we thought that he might be too big of a character to fit in the game. Like, literally, he's just a huge thing.
But they sized him down.
Well, they sized him down a little bit, but he also, like, crouches a lot. Like, he's very hunched down so that he doesn't take up his full length, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think that was a really good way for them to compress Ridley to a acceptable size for Smash.
Yeah. So, and we'll talk about his special characteristics also in the next episode. A couple of things. Obviously, we got the Inkling boy and girl, and we have the new alternate version of Peach, which is Daisy, is going to be in the game.
Yeah, they call those characters Echo characters.
Yes,
I believe
they're pretty much the same as their other counterparts, but maybe they have just slight variations on the move and the animations.
Yeah, different animations, different physics, different properties to the attacks, but ultimately similar attacks. So far, we have Pit and Dark Pit, we have Lucina and Marth, and now we have Peach and Daisy as Echoes. So that's pretty cool new system. And lastly, I guess for now, they confirmed that GameCube controller support is going to be a thing here.
Yeah.
Which, is super reassuring to a lot of the pros out there who are so used to GameCube controllers for this game.
All right, so let's go down the pipe and just quickly touch upon, some of these games and things we already knew, but they ran down a bunch of them, and some of them are things that we hadn't seen before. So we got Starlink Battle for Atlas, October 16th. Kind of looked like a Star Fox game, like basically.
Yeah, so this game is actually a Toys to Life game from Ubisoft where you can physically change the pieces of your not amiibo, your Skylander.
Okay.
And then NFC that into the game. And the game is actually a kind of No Man's Sky open universe space exploration game with space fighting elements to it.
Okay, now I'm more interested in it. A lot more interested in it now.
Oh yeah. The Toys to Life ships that they have actually look really cool.
All right.
I'm gonna be totally honest. I'm pretty sure this might be catering towards kids, but those figures look so neat that I'm probably gonna buy some.
All right, cool.
Yeah, and I want to see more of the gameplay since they didn't show quite that much.
No, these were all things that we just saw like literally a couple seconds of. Arena of Valor, fall, nothing new there. Minecraft's the underwater expansion, June 21st. Sushi Striker, which is out right now. They got the Donkey Kong Adventure expansion DLC, June 26th for Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
Very cool that they're doing a Donkey Kong centric spin-off of that game. I'm not sure if this is an entirely new release or if it's just a DLC of the existing game.
Yeah, I think it's a DLC, yeah.
You think it's DLC? Okay.
Pixark is coming in fall. There were a lot of Ark-based games in this one, but this is like,
yeah. Which is kind of weird, because Ark Survival Evolved is also coming out in fall, but the game isn't technically released yet. Like, Ark Survival Evolved is still technically in the beta, right?
Yeah, that one's still not quite out yet.
So, yeah, it's weird because Ark Survival Evolved is pretty well known for just the sheer number of bugs it has. So it's weird that they're already stretching their development team thin by having Pixark and Ark. So, weird.
Just Dance 2019 is coming in October
Naturally.
23rd.
There's always a Just Dance in Nintendo consoles, so that's expected.
Another of JV's System Switch picks.
Dragon Ball Fighter Z coming out this year. I am so excited. Wasn't this my System Switch last week?
Well, yeah, because we made our E3 predictions and dreams picks. So this was the game that, you were hoping would come out.
Oh my
week.
gosh.
So there you go.
I am doing so well at these. I'm so glad.
The Splatoon 2 Octo expansion, again, is coming this summer. Actually, I'm sorry. I thought I just read that this is coming out today. I could be totally off on that, though.
Well, is summer today?
I guess it is, I guess.
June 13th, yeah, it is coming out today.
Yes, so it's just weird because they said, in summer, which they really meant tomorrow, which is now today, so. So, moving on. Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker, July 13th. The Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, June 29th. Ninjala, this looked like a pretty cool little thing. This is coming out spring of next year, but it was it's just like a cool little ninja-y urban fighting game with these foam swords. Kind of had a Splatoon vibe to it with the characters, I just thought, but they weren't like Inklings.
Yeah. It's pretty neat, I think. I like the aesthetic.
Carcassonne, actually, this looks like the mobile game version of pretty much one of the most classic tabletop games that's out there. Yeah,
I love Carcassonne on the tablets and phones, and it's really cool that we're getting a classic tabletop game here.
Yeah, that's coming on holiday, and it's board games like this are a real good fit for the Switch, just even in tablet mode,
Yeah, exactly.
FIFA 18, which is out now, and then FIFA 19 is coming September 28th. You already mentioned Ark Survival Evolved in the fall. Wasteland 2 Director's Cut is coming out fall. Paladins, Champion of the Realm, actually, it's available now, but if anyone wants to wait till it's free, the free download will be in a couple of weeks, but right now it's kind of like an early access. You could pay $35, I think, for the...
Yeah, $30 for the Founders Pack, which gives you a lot of cosmetics, it seems.
Yeah, and it unlocks, I think, all the characters for you right off the bat. Fallout Shelter, which was kind of funny because that's like another totally mobile game, but it was a very big success. That's on the Switch, though.
Seems appropriate. Now, we're also getting Dark Souls Remastered, confirmed to be releasing in the summer.
Yeah,
there's also SNK Heroines, Tag Team Frenzy coming out September 7th. That's the SNK one with lots of female characters, and for some reason, their clothes are very vulnerable in this game. Now, we're also getting Monster Hunter Ultimate, In August 28th of this year. That's already confirmed and well known. Wolfenstein 2, June 29th, so the end of this month. I'm excited for that. The World Ends With You, this coming fall, which also is incredibly exciting to see on the Switch. And Mega Man 11, October 2nd. And yes, that is, just a ton of exciting announcements. Mario Tennis Aces, we already know that's coming out June 22nd.
This one was just announced today. Broken Age is the, it's a very popular point and click adventure with two different storylines that go back and forth.
That's by Double Fine, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a Double Fine,
Yeah, they are well known. They did Grim Fandango. What else did they do? They did Psychonauts. They did Brutal Legends. So they're a really well-known and well-regarded development studio.
Labyrinth of Refrain, Coven of Dusk. This is by the Disgaea people, but it's a first-person dungeon crawly kind of adventure.
Interesting.
Yeah, it looks a little grindy for my taste, but it's got the Disgaea touch, so maybe. That's September 18th. And Freedom Planet coming fall. That was also one of my Switch picks a while back, and I'm glad that we've already knew it was coming, but now we know it's coming in the fall. And a couple other things that weren't shown in the Direct, but were revealed this week. Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition. The Tales is a great RPG series, very anime-y, but usually have good battle systems, very action-y battle systems. That's coming out winter. And Ink, which is coming next week. It's kind of like it looks like a platformer where all the platforms are invisible, but you're a big thing that squirts ink everywhere, so you have to jump around and hope your ink covers the invisible platforms so you can see where they are. Kind of cool.
Neat.
Yeah. All right. I think that's everything from there. All we have left actually for tonight, we got the new releases. So, JV, why don't you tell us what the new releases are this week?
All right, let's do it. So, today on June 14th, we are getting RBI Baseball 18, Chameleon Run Deluxe Edition, Beaker Reloaded, Soccer Slammers, ACA Neo Geo Super Sidekicks 3, Pub Encounter, Murahun Remake, Lunota, and Beaker Reloaded. On the 15th, we're getting Lego The Incredibles. On the 17th, we're getting Flashback 25th Anniversary. And on the 18th, we are getting Rocket League, the Jurassic World Car Pack, which is really neat. And we're getting quite a number of stuff on the June 19th. We're getting Lost Childs. Inc. is the one we just mentioned. And the Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle DLC characters. On the 20th, we're getting Grab the Bottle. And on the 21st, we are getting Pode, Vegas Party, Lost in Harmony, Johnny Turbo's Arcade, Wizard Fire, Drawful 2, and Journey Down, Chapter 1.
Awesome. All right, so why don't we just close things out finally with, do you have for this system Switch pick, I was just curious, was there anything that didn't get announced this week that you were kind of maybe hoping would, or maybe something that you were a little surprised didn't get picked, or just, anything that you still are lingering desire for?
Okay, so I know that I know our Discord community, and I think a lot of the folks in our community were looking forward to an Animal Crossing announcement.
Yeah.
So that is something that I was hoping for and hoping for the community, but it didn't quite happen.
That actually was almost my System Switch pick last week. I was really hoping for one of those there. What I'm actually going to pick was something I was just kind of really hoping would have been a grand slam for me, and would have given the entire week. And it still could be revealed tomorrow. We don't know. I was looking for any kind of MMO, right? Anything like an RPG, MMORPG preferably, but anything like that would have been fine. Even an MMORTS, like the iPhone games always have. In particular, I was thinking we might have gotten Dragon Quest 9, I think was the MMO that, it's out in Japan. It's really nice. I think it could have had some good potential with the Switch Online service, but looks like, or I don't even want to say it. I don't even want to say the other one.
Don't say it.
I can't say it.
Don't say it. Just say it.
Just say it. No, say it for me. Just say it for me, JV.
I can't
Don't
say
make
it.
me say it, JV.
You guys will not hear it. I'm not saying. I'm not going to be responsible.
Phantasy
for
Star
this
Online
jinx.
2.
I know. PSO2.
PSO2. I was
Oh,
still a part of
said
me
it,
that was
Casey.
crying and whining for it, but whatever.
Yeah,
All right,
it's not gonna
JV.
happen.
That was a good show. Why don't we just say goodbye and goodnight to everybody? Why don't we?
Oh yeah, it's been jam-packed, and we still have so much to talk about next week. We're going to cover all the Smash news that you're probably itching to talk about. But until next time,
Switch it up. Thanks for listening. You can support the SwitchCast by visiting us at patreon.com/theswitchcast and join the review crew by rating us and subscribing on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from.
also check out our Discord chat where we have an enthusiastic bunch of Switch fans in a family-friendly environment. Also join our Facebook group for daily discussion and quite a bit of activity towards the Switch itself.
You can also contact us directly via email at kc@theswitchcast.com and jv@theswitchcast.com. Talk to us on Twitter @theswitchcast.
Thank you, HeatleyBros, for the theme music. And check us out on our website at theswitchcast.com, where we will post all relevant links and show notes.
Promotional considerations provided by publishers in the form of review copies of games. I want this Hitmonchop. Is that a name? Right? Hitmonchop?
Hitmonchan.
No, Hitmonchan.
Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee. Machop. Machop.
Machop. I got my names mixed up. It's late.